Coming up on Kochie's Business Builders, we find out the essentials of building a solid brand, get some great advice from a networking expert, and drop in on Aussie fashion success story, Dinosaur Designs. Hi, welcome back to KBB. Today we're getting a branding lesson from an exciting new brewery. We're going to help a mumpreneur hone her networking skills, and we're going to catch up with the guys behind Dinosaur Designs and get the secrets to their success. Val has got a tech tip. I'm going to answer your questions, so a lot ahead of us. But first, news you can use. Business owners often ask just how important is the #1 spot in search engine rankings. Well, according to a recent study, it's more important than ever. Research carried out in America and Canada reveals the top listing in organic search results receives a massive 33% of all traffic. This compares to 18% for the second position and just 11% for the third. And from there, the results fall away dramatically, especially moving off the front page. Sites listed on the first Google search results page generate 92% of all traffic, and moving from page 1 to 2, it slides to almost nothing. So if your listing is falling away in the local search stakes, it could be time to re-energise your SEO efforts. Back in 2008, Mark Feathers started the Rocks Brewing Company, basically by utilising any spare capacity from other brewers. Now, 6 years on, business is going great guns, and they're developing their own brewing facilities and developing a new brand. So we sent in Cosmina Neski to lend them a hand on how to build the right brand image.
So Mark, you've got a great business here. How did you get started and where is it going now?
So Rocks Brewing Company, we started 6 years ago, and it actually happened by chance on a ghost tour of the Rocks. And we walked through one day, and I've always in the back of my mind starting a beer company, and somebody said, why don't you call it Rocks Brewing Company? And we went from there. I've got almost 6th generation convict descendant.
Wow.
And we had some convicts in the first fleet, so a male and a female. So yes, we decided to start with Rocks Brewing Company. We started off with just beer on tap, and it was always in the business plan not to do anything bottles until we actually built a brewery. So we started with 1 beer, we've gone to 6 or 5 beers and a cider, so we've got the full range now.
So you've gone from beer on tap to destination, a pub, and now you've got bottled beer.
Yep.
What are the challenges that you've found with creating that brand across all three?
We had the Burns Red Ale, and there was the 1809 Pale Ale. So each of the beers had their own brand. So we had to bring it back into basically a house of brands. We actually started going back to the Convict, the Hangman, the Butcher, the Boxer. So we brought it back into as in Rocks Brewing Company is always the head brand with all the sub-brands underneath.
That's a great idea, because if you're selling your beer interstate, people in Perth, people in Tasmania, even overseas, they may not necessarily know about the Rocks, but they know about Australia and about convicts and that side of history. So what else have you done to develop and create that brand?
So with the Hangman and the Governor, we've decided to put colours with them as well. So each beer has its own unique colour. And as you can see, we've got actually the blue for the Hangman, the golden for the Governor, the red for the Boxer. That's
a fantastic idea. So Mark, it's a really good idea to have a consistency throughout your branding. So if you're using, you're using the yellow for the golden ale, keep it throughout. Any product that you're using with that beer in mind, whether it's on your website, your social media, your packaging, what it creates is a story. And there is so much competition out there now, and there's so many different beers that you want people to instantly think, yes, that's the beer I want.
But what we are doing with the brewery is we're going to have seasonal releases. So every 3 or 4 months we'll bring out new beers, and that'll be called the Conviction range.
So will that be on a limited time?
Yes, limited time, limited series, limited pubs.
That's a great idea, especially since your target market is 25 to 35-year-olds. Think about who they are. They're quite fast and savvy, they're entrepreneurial, they like change, they like tasting new things.
So at the moment we're actually changing and developing our brand and actually making it a little bit different. As you can tell with here is actually we've gone from the Hangman was our first beer we did, and it was actually about the Hangman, and Rocks was very much in small print on the top. where we've gone now to the governor, which is basically the rocks is pretty much the dominant part of it, and the governor's on top. So we're slowly changing, learning from our mistakes, which we can easily do, which is a great thing about being a small craft company.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that they're actual mistakes. They're just part of...
Learning curve.
Learning curve, yeah. It's just part of creating a brand. And you may be able to do it all in-house, which is great. And sometimes you may need to outsource.
When we originally started, Jack Watts Curry is a agency here in Sydney. Basically, they helped us with the original Rocks logo. As for branding, no, it was pretty much all in-house, myself and my, pretty much in-house. So.
Is that because you're a beer drinker?
It's because of beer, and I love beer and get to see it all. And you know what it is, and it's a lot of research, a lot of time and effort in other pubs and drinking a lot of beer. So
somebody's got to do it.
Coming up next on KBB, networking tips with a handmade fashion label. This business tip brought to you by NAB. We see Australian business. So guys, you say you see Australian business. Say I'm a bakery that wants to get into social media. What do you see for me?
Well, Kochie, lots of our customers want to use social media more to engage and promote their business activities, but they don't know where to start. They may not have a lot of time, they may have used it before and just not got the results that they've wanted. What we do know about our customers is that they're passionate and that they're keen on effective DIY solutions, which is why we've partnered with Tiger Pistol.
Steve, Tiger Pistols is intriguing. Explain it.
Well, Tiger Pistol is a world-first automated Facebook marketing product. What that means is that customers have their activities pre-configured and pre-scheduled based on the success of other businesses just like theirs.
So this solution puts our customers in complete control of their Facebook marketing activities and really enables them to generate some fantastic business results through a simple and easy to use tool.
Sounds terrific. Social media marketing made easy. Love it. For more information, visit nab.com.au/smallbusiness. Heather Fielding is a mum of 3 and recently opened a fashion business called Gatsby Gorgeous. Now, after spending time refining it into a fabulous product, her big issue is getting the word out. So we sent in networking strategist Julia Palmer to give us some tips on how to build a solid business network to make more sales.
So tell me a little bit more about your business and how I can help.
So I started about 3 months ago, and I'm making some hats, fascinators, headpieces for little girls. It started off as something I wanted to do for school to help out with a fundraiser they were doing. I enjoyed it so much I didn't want to give up after I did that, so I started making things for myself and people became very interested in them. Mm-hmm. People were buying them for the races and for weddings, and so I decided to make a little business. Oh. But the only problem I have is that I'm now on Twitter, on Facebook, I have a little online store, but I don't know how to go from there.
Look, social media is really important, but I really like to integrate the face-to-face as well.
Yep.
Okay. Now, one of the first things that I wanted to do is look at your world. So when we're thinking about networks, it's really important to think about the actual existing relationships that you have, so the network that you've already formed,
yep.
And then let's do a bit of a gap analysis and figure out how you can utilise networking to get some of those new relationships and make sure that they're working for you. So I've brought the matrix structure along so that we can get the general groups and then we can actually plot where you sit relationship strength-wise with a lot of these people. So, friends and family, quite obvious. And we've talked about community, so you've got the mums groups, the kids groups, the local businesses, sports, that kind of thing. Professional, an area that we probably need to focus on more is the associations, the groups, the ex-colleagues, and these are really where you start to build the business side of things. Suppliers, you know, print, account, obviously the beautiful accessories that you're bringing along. And the last one is the actual clients. So that whole 6 degrees of separation, which in Australia is about 1 or 2 degrees, you start to see the benefit of that because you've actually invested in these relationships.
And the other thing I wanted to ask about was networking functions. I have never been to one and I didn't know they existed.
Okay.
But it sounds like something that I probably need to do.
The networking, I guess, world in terms of functions, events, there's all these association and groups and we'll need to find the right ones for you. My advice though, when you're starting out, is not to join any. Always go as a non-member first so that you can really ascertain if that's something for you. What I would firstly suggest is that you actually get there really early. The first people there are the organisers and the guest speakers, you know, so that means that straight away you've got access to the most important people. Secondly, the room fills around you. So you start to feel a little bit more comfortable because it's not like you're walking into all these groups. And I know a lot of people feel like all those people know each other and they're the odd one out, when really everyone says that to me.
So when you're at a networking event, when is the right time to hand over a business card?
Oh my goodness, there are so many card collectors out there. It's usually towards the end of the conversation. The only reason you'd want to give the card is once you've qualified that that's someone that you want to stay connected to.
Coming up next, it's time for some small business tips from Dinosaur Designs. This payments tip brought to you by BPay.
BPay wants to make it easier for businesses to collect payments. QR codes can help. And it's easy to add a QR code to your bill or invoice. A BPay QR code enables your customers to scan the code on their bills with their mobile banking app. It then automatically uploads the payment information, reducing the risk of errors and accelerating your cash flow. QR codes can really help small business. For example, if you're a plumber, you can provide your customer with the bill when your work is completed. All your customer needs to do is scan the QR code on the bill and the payment can be made there and then. If you're interested in including BPay QR codes on your invoices, contact your financial institution.
Visit bpay.com.au/SME for more information. Dinosaur Designs is a remarkable business, starting out in jewellery, then expanding into homewares, now furniture, as the business continues to grow. KBB's Alex Brophy caught up with two of the founders, Louise Olsen and Stephen Ormandy, to find out how they've managed to keep their business growing and on top for 28 years.
So Louise and Stephen, your 28th year of Dinosaur Designs. Tell us about how it got started and what the growth has looked like.
I was wholesaling fabrics with my own, a small little business that I had. Stephen was making earrings. Leanne, our third partner then, was knitting jumpers for the Squire store. And so we were all, three of us were all quite creative and we were all doing our own things and we came together and started Dinosaur Designs.
Now, often creatives grapple a bit with the sort of formal side of running a business. Did you guys experience that at all?
Really, we were trained as art students and we were trained in painting and drawing and art history, and running a business really wasn't part of our course. So it was good in a way that our business was quite small and we started it quite small. We started with $200 and it grew very organically. But as the years went on, 10 years into the business, we had to get a business coach to really restructure the business.
And when the business coach came in, he actually said to us, he said, "Astounding, you are where you are on this structure."
Because, I mean, 80 people, that's a pretty big business. How have you gone about managing that growth from just a few of you at the start?
I guess we've gone with the times and we've floated with our market in a sense. As our business has grown, we now have 8 stores. And we have a store in New York and we wholesale around the world. So, and the online aspect of our business. So we've grown with the business, but it's also, I think one of the key things also is having a great team working with you.
Sure.
And having the right people working with you and getting the right advice at the right time. Naturally, we've been lucky to have a good instinct for that. And I think it's held us through a time when we were more of an organic business and we knew when we really needed to get more structure back in there by getting our business coach in.
Was it a difficult process having a business coach come in and give you a very frank, independent assessment of where the business was? Was that tough?
Quite confronting, the whole thing was, yeah. Nuts and bolts wasn't so much, but I think it was, he provided a mirror for us to have a look at ourselves as well at the same time, because the business is down to you personally and the decisions you're making. And sometimes you can be making decisions for reasons that you haven't thought through.
Now, many designers and retailers in the industry go down the mass-produced route. It's very cheap. There's a price and cost incentive of doing so. You're a bit unique, though. What does your manufacturing process look like?
Well, we've developed that, and again, it's ongoing, it's always developing, but we make everything here in our Strawberry Hills pirate ship, which is kind of the way we like to think about it. It keeps us very nimble making our own products here in Australia. It really allows us not only to be nimble, it allows us to introduce all sorts of craziness into our shops that I think you would struggle, A, communicating with someone else in another factory, and B, you know, you'd have minimums. So what happens in that process is I think the craziness gets dumbed down a bit.
So you've established a fabulous product, really strong brand with an international presence. What are your top tips for other small businesses wanting to emulate that success?
Oh, when it's tough, keep turning up.
Yeah, and enjoy what you do, love what you do. Understand yourself and understand your customer, but also keeping relevant at the same time, keep it exciting and interesting.
Coming up next, it's Ask Kochie. This Business in the Spotlight brought to you by BPay.
So here we are, Tamira Stevenson, thanks for joining us.
You're welcome.
Stevenson Business Lawyers, tell us a bit about how you got started.
I came from a large law firm providing commercial law services that small businesses simply could not afford. So I thought, well, here's a real niche here, and that is that I provide specialised commercial law services, but without my clients paying for the harbour views, which I did enjoy, but were expensive.
And what are some of the most common mistakes you see people make?
Some of the common mistakes is an over-enthusiasm to share their ideas before we've actually legally protected it.
How can people protect their idea before opening the business?
Well, to maintain documentation to show that they are the actual creator of that product. Now, that's a very good start, but if they're going to involve anyone with their idea, they really need to have a non-disclosure agreement with anyone that they're negotiating with.
And looking at your small business, you've been going for about 9 years now. What are some of the challenges that you've faced?
I think the main challenge is administration, and that is that making sure the back end supports the front end, you know, fairly efficiently. But the other thing is that we do a lot of commercial litigation, and if we're briefing barristers such as senior counsel, we receive a deposit on behalf of those barristers. So when we're in large commercial litigation, that can involve a fair bit of money.
Okay, what are some of the things you've put in place to streamline that process?
Well, software is one of the most obvious things, and outsourcing aspects of administration. We decided to introduce BPay in July this year because people can use online banking using our merchant card and the tax invoice number. And if they decide to pay by credit card, it's a far lower rate than they would pay under a traditional credit card merchant facility.
What have been the big gains for you?
The big gains for us is that we don't need to worry about security in managing cash payments. We now actively discourage cash payments.
Okay.
And obviously the advantage for our clients is that they have more choice as to how they pay and more choices as to how they manage their cash flow.
Visit bpay.com.au/SME for more information.
It's Tech Tip Time with Val Quinn.
Great websites normally have great content. So how do you make the most of the content that you go to all the trouble to produce? Well, there are some tools out there, and one that I love is called Add This. Now, Add This is a tool that puts social networking share icons on your content. Now, to do this, you go to the Add This website. Now, here you can choose the different social platforms you want to share with. So you could choose Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter, for example. Plus, there are some other tools like Email This Article. Now, after this, the site will create a special bit of code that you can insert into your website, which will make the share buttons appear. You could also give this code to your IT manager if it's easier. Now, the greatest thing about Add This is it's free, and it allows you to share the content that you spend hard work on creating and maximize your SEO and ultimately generate leads for your site.
Now to answer some of your questions, and Marcus sent this one in via email. He says, I've taken over the family cattle business in northwest Queensland and would like some advice on a loan we've taken out to buy another property. Should I go fixed or variable? Well, Mark, first up, I hope you're getting some rain. I know Queensland, a lot of it is in drought, so keep our fingers crossed. Now, your question is a very common one, so you probably speak on behalf of a lot of other viewers. It's really a matter of what you're comfortable with. Personally, I've always gone for a mix, part fixed and part variable, so that I get the best of both worlds. If you're happy to ride the interest rate cycle, you might opt for a larger variable portion. But if you can't sleep, not knowing what repayments will be next December, you can fix the lot. Word of caution though, when assessing your ability to service any loan at the moment, add 2% to the current interest rate. This is a margin of safety which you might end up paying within a couple of years. So budget for it now. Economists reckon we're at the bottom of the interest rate cycle. They're on the way up from here. Now, as Val was saying earlier, social media is a really important part of every business. If you'd like help with your social media, don't forget our very own KBB Digital business. Go to kbbdigital.com.au to find out more. Next week on KBB, building a winning Gen Y staff culture with tips from a successful AFL club and a peek inside Peter Alexander's pyjama empire.